Baik, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and thank you for joining us in this webinar held by the ITS Indonesia. I am Wahyu Wiwoho. I will be your MC and also moderator for the next hours. And today's topic is building ecosystem in transportation industry. So it is all about to enhance our transportation system by using current technology. Before we start to the discussion, allow me to explain a very brief background about the ITS. So the ITS is ITS Indonesia, or Intelligent Transport System Indonesia, is a non-profit organization established to build an integrated transportation system in Indonesia and is here to provide an alternative solution to congestion problems, provide comfort, and be environmentally friendly. ITS Indonesia will be a platform for the development of smart mobility and the development of a digital transportation ecosystem, which supports economic growth and recovery, equitable mobility, and environmental sustainability, along with Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Hong Kong, Japan, South Korea, China, Taiwan, New Zealand, and also Australia. Indonesia has joined ITS Asia Pacific in regional area. And in doing its job, ITS will provide suggestion and feedback to the government in making policies, regulations, and standards development of ITS Indonesia. It will also synergize the potential in industry, government, and academia in ITS Indonesia's development. Furthermore, ITS Indonesia aims to educate people by providing information, issues, articles, and facilitating training. ITS Indonesia is committed to enhance to the transportation system, putting public transportation users in the center of it. ITS Indonesia will also provide the solution by developing a transportation system for urban commuters that will support them with domestic transportation to do their daily activities and intensify transportation planning in the tourism sector to facilitate business and also leisure travelers. In response to the current condition, ITS Indonesia will also reinforce new normal households so that the public transportation can fulfill logistic needs due to the COVID-19 pandemic situation in the country. So that's the background of the ITS, so that we can have the same perspective on the discussion later on about building digital ecosystem in transportation industry. Ladies and gentlemen, this webinar will further discuss the changes in human mobility and the development of the urban transportation system due to the current situation caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. So we will also discuss the challenge for urban transportation managers who must continue innovating technological developments to deliver more accessible and safer and also comfortable public transportation services to anyone. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of ITS Indonesia, allow me to introduce you our distinguished guest, His Excellency Bambang Brojonegoro as Minister of Research and Technology, Chief of National Research and Innovation Agency of Republic of Indonesia. We are delighted to have you here, Pak Bambang. Apa kabar? Selamat pagi, Pak.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you.
Good morning.
Terima kasih. And also we have Mr. Hamam Riza, President at the Agency for the Assessment and Application of Technology as our keynote speaker. Pak Hamam, apa kabar, Pak?
Baik, terima kasih. Selamat pagi.
Selamat pagi. And as well, furthermore, we have Mr. William Sabandar, the President of ITS Indonesia, will address his opening remark for today's webinar. Selamat pagi. Good morning, Pak Willy. Apa kabar?
Good morning, Mas Wahyu.
Baik. Also, before we start the presentation, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you our today's speakers. The first one, Mr. Muhammad Kamaluddin, as President Director of PT Jaklingko Indonesia. Pak Kamal, apa kabar, Pak?
Very good, thank you. Good morning, Pak Wahyu. Terima kasih.
you for joining us. And then we have Mr. Edward Kilian Subigno, CEO of Link Aja. Mas Kiki, good morning, Mas. Apa kabar?
Good morning, Mas Wahyu.
Thank you. And also we have Ms. Isabella Wibowo, a strategic partnership of Google Maps. Mbak Isabella, selamat pagi. All right, we are still waiting for Ms. Isabella to join us later on. And ladies and gentlemen, so let me begin the show. I will invite Mr. William Sabandar to give the opening remark for this webinar. Pak Willy, the time is yours, Pak.
Thank you very much, Mas Wahyu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua yang saya hormati, Bapak Profesor Bambang Brojonegoro, the Minister of Research and Technology, Chief of the National Research and Innovation Agency of the Republic of Indonesia, yang saya hormati Pak Hamam Riza, the Chief of the Agency of the Assessment and Applications of Technology, and all the speakers and all distinguished participants. First of all, allow me to express my great appreciations to Pak Professor Bambang Brojonegoro for the availability and willingness to address the first webinar of the ITS Indonesia this year. Also to Pak Hamam Riza for the availability and the willingness as well. The event this morning will be created as a regular event, so we will be conducting the event once a month, and this is our first event. So thank you all participants for the event this morning. I would like to a little bit continue on what Pak Wahyu has explained earlier about the vision of ITS Indonesia. We would like to be a platform for development of smart mobility and the development of a digital transport ecosystem, which of course will support economic growth and recovery, equitable mobility, and environmental sustainability. In doing so, we have 5 action plans. Number 1 is to promote digital transformation for transport development. Number 2 is for doing integrated urban transport system. Number 3 is for safety and healthy mobility. And 4 is smart driving and logistics. And the last one is for the promoting electric vehicle or electric transport system. Today's discussion will be focusing on the first issue, which is on digital transformation for transport development. Ibu, bapak-bapak, saudara-saudara, teman-teman dari seluruh Indonesia, kami mengucapkan terima kasih banyak kehadirannya. Ini datang dari seluruh Indonesia dan partisipannya, Pak Menteri kami laporkan, yang mendaftar lebih dari 300 orang dari berbagai masyarakat, baik perguruan tinggi, profesional, civil society, dan pemerintah. Ini yang boleh kami sampaikan. Terima kasih banyak atas kehadiran Ibu dan Bapak-Bapak, dan dengan hormat kami nanti mohon kesediaan Pak Menteri dan Kepala BPPT untuk menyampaikan keynote remark-nya. Demikian kami sampaikan. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Pak Willy, for the excellent speech. A very brief yet inspiring speech from Pak Willy about the vision of the ITS Indonesia in creating a modern transportation ecosystem in Indonesia in the future, but starting from now. Begitu ya, Pak Willy ya. Right, ladies and gentlemen, now it's the time for us to pay our attention to our very distinguished guest on delivering the keynote speech, His Excellency Pak Bambang Brojonegoro. The time is yours, Pak. Kami persilakan.
Okay. Should I deliver the speech in bahasa or in English?
Silakan, Bapak.
Or it's up to you.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera, salam sehat buat kita semua. Pak Hamam, Kepala BPPT, Pak William Sabandar, Presiden of ITS, Mas Wahyu sebagai moderator, and all the distinguished speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to congratulate ITS for the first series of webinar. And I believe this kind of webinar will be very useful for anybody who has the interest in the, not only in the transportation in general, but in the digital transformation process in Indonesia. The question is why we need this kind of digital ecosystem in transportation industry. Of course, the background would be the need for Indonesia to be innovation-driven economy. So why Indonesia needs to move to innovation-driven economy? Because we have the very high ambition to be one of the developed economy or high-income economy in 2045, when we celebrate 100 years of our independence. Of course, this looks like very ambitious, but every country that trying to be part of developed economy always starts with the strong vision. And unfortunately, in this world, only few countries have been able to get out of middle income trap and being part of developed economy. And Indonesia would like to be one of them. Indonesia would like to be one of the very few countries that has been able to get rid of middle income trap. And the only solution or the only breakthrough is by shifting our economy from the dependency to natural resource to the innovation-driven economy. The next question is what kind of innovation then we have to concentrate. Of course, innovation could be anything, but innovation has to be relevant with the current technological condition in which we are in the Industrial Revolution 4.0, meaning innovation in digital technology will be the priority. And part of that related to the digital ecosystem for transportation and smart city, smart mobility. Again, the idea of talking about the urban area, especially this morning, would be very relevant. Number one, because majority of our population now live in urban area. More than 50%, I think 53 or 54% of Indonesian population living in urban area. Number two, the source of economic growth for a country like Indonesia still depends on urban area. So the needs to implement or to apply digital transformation in urban area will be very critical and has to be the priority. Before we are talking about the digital ecosystem itself, let me describe about our national research priority that will support our future innovation. We have different areas of national research priority. Two of them very much related to our today's discussion, transportation and engineering products. Under the subheading of transportation and engineering products, what we are doing right now, for example, in railway technology, this is related to transportation, we are trying to make the prototype of regional train with a speed up to 250 kilometers per hour. Hopefully, when we have been able to produce the train like this, then a company like William led company, PT MRT, could also use this kind of regional train and trying to reduce the dependency of imported stuff. And then on the air transportation, we are now working on N219 amphibious that can, the type of airplane, 19 passengers airplane that can land on the sea or on the coastal area. So it will help connecting Indonesia, not only in the tourism area, but also in areas that are relatively isolated with a very minimum infrastructure for air transportation. And talking about urban transportation, of course, now our focus, like other countries, is trying to work on electric vehicle. And as a side product, we also working on autonomous vehicle. But first, we are focusing on electrical vehicle. We already have the consortium of research for electrical vehicle consisting of 5 universities plus 2 agencies like Pak Hamam's agencies, PPPT, and LIPI. And they are now working to develop the traction motor, platform and body, battery management system, charging system. I think BPPT is leading on this charging system, thermal management system, and smart transportation information system. So they are working separately, I mean, this each institution, but at the end, of course, we are now trying to get an integrator to make sure that Indonesia someday can really produce our own electrical vehicle, and after that, of course, the autonomous electrical vehicle. At the same time, we are also working on a big data analysis, in which we are trying to utilize the big data coming out of the transportation activities or urban activities in general. I remember when I was working in my dissertation, I had to work with a survey related to transportation called OD survey, origin destination survey. In the past, this survey was made using the real questionnaire, doing the real survey, primary survey. But today, I don't think this primary survey will be no longer efficient. We can even use the big data to create the OD matrix as a result of the previous survey. And using the big data, we can even get more accurate and more comprehensive data regarding origin and destination, regarding the traffic and mobility of the people. So this is the importance of big data to the transportation sector. Talking about the electric vehicle, let me focus a little bit on electric vehicle, because when we are talking about intelligent transportation system, then we are talking about the future. And the future certainly lies on this battery electric vehicle. Autonomous vehicle will travel around 66% of total passenger kilometer in 2040. So before we go to the autonomous vehicle, we know that this autonomous vehicle will be powered by this battery. And today, we are trying to make or to develop our own battery. Indonesia is blessed with the nickel, and it has been one of the advantages. Although we are still importing the lithium, but at least Indonesia now attracting quite many investors to invest in battery producers, to be a battery producers in Indonesia. But of course, we do not stop only on battery, but also we trying to make our own vehicles. And our focus will be on the bus and motorcycle. Why the bus? Because again, we are trying to promote more public transportation. So of course, we hope someday in the future, Transjakarta, for example, will use all electric bus. Not only big bus, but also medium bus and also motorcycle. Why motorcycles? Because Indonesia is one of the largest producer of motorcycle as well as the consumers. So I think it's good to trying to promote electric motorcycle for Indonesian market. And of course, it has to be supported by, aside from the battery, is the charging station. So that's why the role of BPPT is very critical. Without charging station, the electric vehicle will not work. And of course, the ideas of autonomous vehicle in the future will also be delayed. So we cannot be too late in developing this charging station. We have to create the charging station that as efficient as the current fuel station. And talking about the intelligent transport system, which is, of course, the heart of this webinar today, I would say the kind of the conclusion for the future transport system is cashless and humanless. Why cashless? Because of course, everybody would like to get the comfortability by not having to pay every time they ride the public transportation. Instead, they can just pay using integrated system and no cash. Certainly, cashless has been kind of lifestyle in Indonesia. Slowly but sure, I think more and more people in Indonesia will be adjusted, will be accustomed to the cashless transaction. Why humanless? Of course, as I mentioned, in 2040, autonomous vehicle could be dominating our traffic. And of course, it will be a very interesting question to see whether these autonomous vehicles will really get their portion by that time. Of course, today is 2021, and we haven't seen a massive use of autonomous vehicle in any part of the world. Most of them only use this autonomous vehicle for kind of trial or pilot, a very small trial or pilot. And the big question would be, if autonomous vehicle is there, whether the rate of accident will be increasing or decreasing. Because the main argument for autonomous vehicle is to reduce or to minimize the traffic accidents that caused usually by human error. So we will see whether this technology of autonomous vehicle will really minimize the accident. If they can minimize the accident, I think the autonomous vehicle will be quite dominant. Aside from autonomous vehicle, of course, whenever we have any transportation support in our cell phone, it's already the artificial intelligence support for transportation. If we can look for parking just using our cell phone, and also traffic flow analysis, I think Google Maps, for example, they can also provide traffic flow analysis whenever we travel. That is the future of our transport system, in which artificial intelligence will be the key. And then, aside from artificial intelligence, of course, we are talking about Internet of Things, in which fleet management, passenger information system will be very important for any transportation operators. Then they can really manage their transportation modes in a very effective and efficient way. So I would like to say that at the end of the day, the city like Jakarta has to be the example of this intelligent transport system. So the job of Pak William Sabandar, Pak Kamaludin, I think will be very difficult, because if you fail to ensure people about this intelligent transport system, then people will be back to the traditional transportation system that we know will create a lot of congestion. The ideas of intelligent transport system should end up with minimum congestion, the use of public transportation, and efficient traffic. And that can only be done if we really implement at the full level the availability of artificial intelligence, IoT, and all the big data. And hopefully by implementing all the component of Industrial Revolution 4.0, we can promote at the end, Jakarta used to be one of the most congested city in the world, to be much more efficient, less congested, and at the same time promoting people to more mobility in a very modern way. I believe that will be our dream, as a residents of Jakarta and citizen of Indonesia. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Pak Bambang Brojonegoro, for the excellent speech. A very good point delivered by Pak Bambang. If I may to express, Pak Bambang, I've been wondering, Indonesia have a very modern transportation, Pak. every transportation are autonomous, Pak. By 2040 ya, Pak? Atau bisa lebih cepat?
Yeah, that's a prediction. Yeah.
That's
Prediksinya 2040.
2040, baik. I believe we can, Pak, because we have all the sources, Pak. Thank you very much once again. Baik, ladies and gentlemen, before Pak Bambang leave this webinar, I would like to ask all the speakers to join a photo session with Pak Bambang Brojonegoro, Pak Willy, Pak Hamam, Pak Kamal, Mas Kiki, Mbak Isabella sudah join. Thank you, Mbak, for joining us. Please join us when you are ready, ladies and gentlemen. I'll make a countdown in 3, 2, 1. Okay, one more time. 3, 2, 1. There you go. Thank you very much once again, His Excellency Bambang Brojonegoro, Minister of Research and Technology, also Chief of National Research and Innovation Agency of Republic of Indonesia. Allow me to express our gratitude for your support, Pak Bambang. Sekali lagi, terima kasih.
Terima kasih Mas Wahyu dan semuanya.
Terima kasih Pak Bambang.
Terima kasih Pak William.
Have a good day, Pak.
Ya, thank you.
Baik. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now jump to the next session. I am pleased to invite Mr. Hamam Riza, President at the Agency for the Assessment and Application of Technology, to deliver the next keynote speech. Pak Hamam, kami persilakan Pak Hamam.
Thank you, Mas Wahyu. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings. Very good morning to all of you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
Selamat pagi, salam, Om Swastiastu, Nama Budaya, salam kebajikan, salam sehat untuk kita semua. I think I will be code switching for my speech here, since the minister himself already delivered the speech in Indonesia, so probably I will just deliver my speech in Bahasa. But I would like to greet yang terhormat Pak Menteri Riset dan Teknologi, Minister of Research and Technology, the President of the National Research and Innovation Agency, also my good colleagues, Pak William Sabandar, and all the speakers from Google Indonesia, from Link Aja, from Jaklingo, and many others. I will not mention by names. I'm really sorry. And I'm very honored to be part of this webinar, Building Digital Ecosystem in Transportation Industry. This is really a relevant theme for all of us, as we are still fighting this pandemic COVID-19. Even after a year now, as you know that we started this in March 2020, and we are coming to the first year, I believe so, of having this pandemic COVID. So I think this webinar, Building Digital Innovation Ecosystem for Intelligent Transportation System, will be suitable as a topic that I would like to deliver to all of you in this webinar. Bapak Ibu yang saya hormati, kalau kita bicara tentang ekosistem digital, tentu kita memulainya dengan melihat apa yang menjadi driver. What is the driver for this digital ecosystem? This driver, which have been mentioned by the minister earlier, basically is how we could adopt to all what we understood as Industrial Revolution 4.0. In this case, probably we will be looking deeply into the existence of cloud computing, Internet of Things and robotics, AI, artificial intelligence, big data analytic, all of these technologies which are considered as a bigger part or the dominant part of having all the related sectors, the economic sectors, including transportation, moving forward with digital transformation. So I would like to emphasize in this area that having these technologies with us will basically create innovation towards delivering all the services, whether it is health services, whether it is in food resiliency, or in government, in bureaucratic reform, and many others area. That's why in our national strategy for artificial intelligence, which was launched by the Minister of Research, witnessed by the Vice President of Republic Indonesia, Pak Kiai Haji Ma'ruf Amin, on August 10, which is commemorating the National Technology Day, which we've been celebrating for the past 20 years since the first flight of N250, N250. We launched this national strategy for artificial intelligence with a specific highlight on adopting AI for mobility, for smart city, for smart transportation, and many other priority sectors. In this case, we can really take the benefit of having an ecosystem, an innovation ecosystem, which will hand in hand or being aligned with our missions for getting Indonesia towards the vision of 2045. In this area, we have a special focus on ethics and policy, on data and infrastructures, on developing the artificial intelligence or digital talent, and then research and industrial innovation, which I think the ITS is heavily moved by all the creativity and the innovation created among all the related stakeholders. Again, ecosystem, innovation ecosystem cannot be realized if we are not getting together in pentahelix synergy and collaboration, where we basically, this ecosystem will involve the research and development institutions, universities. It will also emphasize on the participation from the transportation companies, from the logistic companies, from the hospitality companies, which basically will create the value change, to create a better public services. In this case, for transportation system, for urban transportation system, and our supporting system for delivering safe and secure transportation system toward the people of Indonesia. Jadi Bapak Ibu yang saya hormati, kalau kita bicara tentang ekosistem inovasi ini untuk intelligence transportation system, then we can quote what have been said by Peralos di bukunya Intelligent Transportation System Technologies and Application. yang menyebutkan bahwa ITS merupakan gabungan dari pengaplikasian pemanfaatan teknologi informasi dan komunikasi. Ya, jadi kita betul bicara tentang digital ecosystem karena memang yang mendrive intelligent transportation system ini adalah bidang-bidang yang terkait dengan teknologi informasi dan komunikasi di bidang transportasi. Tetapi bukan berarti juga kita tidak bicara dari sisi bagaimana energi, bagaimana infrastruktur, bagaimana teknologi, bidang teknologi lainnya yang memang saling terkait, yang membentuk sebuah life cycle ya di dalam pemanfaatan intelligent transportation system ini. Dan selain itu juga kalau kita mengikuti apa yang disampaikan oleh Susan Sahin ya, ini menyebutkan bahwa teknologi ini sebenarnya akan mengintegrasikan keseluruhan daripada komponen daripada transportation system itu. Kita tidak hanya bicara tentang kendaraan, tadi Pak Menteri sudah bicara mengenai electric vehicle ataupun kendaraan bermotor listrik berbasis baterai, mungkin kita harus bicara lebih jauh lagi terkait dengan driverless vehicle. Bisa bicara tentang autonomous vehicle. Dan itu semua bisa terbangun dengan digital ecosystem. Mungkin itu juga yang kalau kita memperhatikan ceritanya kenapa Tesla itu dibangun di Silicon Valley gitu ya, bukan di Detroit ya. Saya baca itu. Ya. Karena memang yang mendrive electric vehicle itu adalah sistem cerdasnya, information communication teknologinya, adalah digitalisasi daripada semua proses tersebut yang ada di dalam produksi kendaraan, dalam hal ini kendaraan bermotor listrik berbasis baterai. Dan karenanya ITS ini haruslah kita dekati dengan ekosistem inovasi untuk seluruh komponen yang membentuk ekosistem dari ITS itu sendiri. Digital ekosistem merupakan bagian daripada ekosistem ITS yang memang harus kita dorong agar kita mampu mencapai apa yang kita harapkan secara bersama-sama, partnering antara users, antara authorities, dengan seluruh masyarakat, ya, itu merupakan bagian daripada ekosistem inovasi untuk intelligent transportation system. Bapak Ibu yang saya hormati, di dalam beberapa hal yang terkait dengan digital ecosystem ini, khususnya di dalam memerangi pandemik seperti tadi yang dihantarkan oleh Mas Wahyu, ya, kita di BPPT berusaha mencari bagaimana mobilitas masyarakat di dalam digital ekosistem untuk transportasi sistem ini dapat dibekali dengan berbagai sistem yang sudah memang menjadi keharusan dari kita untuk menjalankan protokol kesehatan 5T, kemudian melaksanakan 5M maksud saya, 3T, testing, tracing, dan treatment, serta seluruh upaya kita untuk menghindari dari terpaparnya COVID-19. Dan oleh karenanya di dalam berbagai kesempatan kita sudah melihat sistem digital ini berjalan untuk mempermudah perjalanan pergerakan manusia sebagai bagian daripada sistem transportasi kita sendiri. Kita tentu saja haruslah bisa bekerja di dalam sebuah ekosistem. Kalau tidak, solusi-solusi yang kita hasilkan itu akan merupakan fragmentasi ataupun segmentasi. Dan itulah tujuan dari membentuk ekosistem agar keseluruhan aplikasi terkait dengan testing dan tracing misalnya contohnya di dalam sebuah digital ecosystem ini bisa berjalan dengan selaras antara health alert card dengan peduli lindungi dengan sistem yang lain. Dalam hal ini Kementerian Riset Teknologi bersama-sama dengan BPPT juga sudah melaksanakan clearing dan audit teknologi dalam pantau COVID-20 kita sebutnya, ya PC 20 ini, di mana kita bekerja sama dengan Peruri misalnya untuk menghasilkan health passport, ya, yang akan kita cobakan untuk memberikan sebuah konsep, ya, travel corridor yang bisa menjadikan bukan saja paspor dalam cross border, tetapi health passport ini untuk menyatakan sebuah track record dari seorang traveler dari satu tempat ke tempat yang lain, dan secara bilateral itu bisa kita laksanakan dengan sistem ataupun ekosistem digital. Masih banyak lagi saya kira yang akan kita upayakan, dan di sini kembali kita ditantang, di-challenge. We are really looking forward to the collaboration and synergy, especially from ITS, which organize the whole ecosystem of intelligence transportation system in Indonesia, that we will able to actually take this synergy into really integrated product, yeah, for people, for mobility, and for the urban transportation system. Dengan demikian kita juga akan bisa kemudian melihat pengembangan teknologi-teknologi yang lainnya. Karena pada akhirnya kita akan dapat membangun ITS ekosistem yang mungkin Bapak Ibu mungkin lebih paham daripada saya di sini terkait dengan bagaimana ekosistem ITS itu yang bentuknya seperti rumah ini ya Pak, terdiri atas physical layer, communication layer, operational layer, dan service layer itu bisa terintegrasi di dalam sebuah ekosistem yang terdiri dari berbagai stakeholder, dari multi stakeholder. Katakanlah kita ingin mengembangkan advanced transportation management system yang melibatkan tidak saja pihak akademik, pemerintah, industri, tetapi juga komunitas, ya, community association, professional association, ya, yang memang menjadi pilar-pilar di dalam kita membangun berbagai solusi dari intelligent transportation system. Kembali lagi, digital ecosystem sangat relevan untuk menjadi penguat daripada ekosistem ITS ini dan menjadi fokus kita, apalagi transformasi digital adalah sebuah keniscayaan bagi kita semua di berbagai sektor pembangunan, ya, yang memang menjadi driver daripada ataupun penghela daripada berbagai economic activity, economic sector yang dalam upaya kita keluar dari pandemi COVID ini dalam upaya pemulihan ekonomi nasional. Terakhir mungkin saya bisa share kepada Bapak Ibu semua lanjut, ya, terkait dengan beberapa teknologi ITS seperti Advanced Navigation System, kemudian Advanced Travel Information System. Ini sangat relevan dalam penggunaan teknologi digital, dan saya kira hal ini menjadi quick win bagi kita semua, khususnya di dalam kita keluar dari pandemi COVID-19. Demikian Bapak Ibu, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm inviting all of you actually to collaborate, to create synergy, and to be creative and innovative in moving forward with digital ecosystem for the transportation system. And do not forget that it is better to have a super team rather than a Superman. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Kurang lebih mohon maaf. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Pak Hamam, keren sekali. I'm very excited, Pak, karena saya baru tahu about the Indonesian National Strategy for AI 2020-45 ya, Pak. Jadi AI will be dominating in all sectors for our daily life gitu ya Pak ya, which will make life easier tentunya. Tetapi karena tadi Pak Hamam juga sudah menyinggung soal ethics, I have read an article Pak, di luar negeri itu di UK, di Inggris, para clerics di gereja-gereja itu have asked the lawmakers to create a bill Pak, to create a bill regarding ethics in facing the future Pak, in order to secure humankind Pak, dari dominasi robot-robot begitu ya. Ini menarik sekali, nanti kita bisa ekspor lagi dalam, mudah-mudahan juga kita punya payung hukum yang kuat di Indonesia. Thank you very much once again, Pak Hamam. Should you have another agenda, Pak, you may also leave the webinar. Thank you very much once again on behalf of ITS.
Terima kasih Pak William.
Thank you very much for your support,
Bu Isabella. Terima kasih, mohon maaf.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Baik, ladies and gentlemen, before we jump to the next session, I would like to let you know that you are very welcome to put any questions to the speakers. You can put your question to the Q&A box, but don't forget to mention your name, your institution, your organization, and please also mention to whom the question is aimed. So the speakers will then answer the question in the discussion section after the presentation. Right, the first presenter will be Miss Isabella Wibowo from Google Maps. Mbak Isabella, apa kabar? Thank you for joining us, Mbak. So Mbak Isabella, alhamdulillah baik. We'll be explaining maju sama-sama ya Mbak ya. Jadi partnering with users and authorities around the world to help citizens navigating wherever they are. Mbak Isabella, kami silakan Mbak, the time is yours.
Ya, terima kasih. Untuk presentasinya, oke. Boleh mungkin di-share, di-present? Alright. Oke, selamat pagi Bapak Ibu yang saya hormati, Pak William, Pak Kamal, Bu Fei juga, ada Pak Wahyu dan sebagai moderator. Terima kasih untuk kesempatannya. Hari ini saya ingin perkenalkan diri. Nama saya Bella. Saya bekerja sebagai partnership manager untuk Google Maps. Coverage saya di regional, salah satunya adalah di Indonesia. Hari ini saya ingin sharing aja bagaimana kami helping citizens through technology melalui produk-produk Google. Delivery materi ini akan mungkin saya campur-campur bahasa Inggris dan bahasa Indonesia mengikuti jargon yang akan saya berikan. Akan saya mulai sekarang. Terima kasih. Please. Next slide. Next slide lagi. First, I would like to introduce Google Maps. Google Maps, the free product, as you know, from Google, and people will use it to navigate, to find places where they want to go. And we are now in Google. Google Maps is one of the 200 products that we have. And every year we are adding more products as well. And Google Maps is actually one of our few products that has more than 1 billion users all over the world. Next slide, please. In Google itself, we do have a big mission, which is to organize world information and make it universally accessible and useful. Next. So useful itself is actually a keyword, and we emphasize it in all the missions of all the Google products, especially Google Maps. In Google Maps, the mission is translated to assist people everywhere as they navigate, explore, and getting things done in the world. In Bahasa, maybe it's going to be a bit more relatable, is to membantu orang di mana saja, kapan saja, untuk bernavigasi, bereksplorasi, dan menjadi produktif atau getting things done. Nah, untuk misi ini, for this mission is very closely related to the advanced progress of information, digital information during this internet age. In the world, most of the data in the world actually has location component. According to Forbes, actually 90% of data in the world has a location component in the last 2 years, and actually has been a huge increase in connected devices across all industry, especially the advanced industry of IoT. So that was only on the past 2 years. On the next 2 years, we will see even more data in the world that has location component. Next, please. So in Google Maps, we know our goals to help people navigate their cities by having 4 pillars. One is to empowering mobility, because we have more than 1 billion users using Google Maps across the world to navigate their cities. Second is to help the economic impact, because we understand that every cities in the world has spent billions of investment in infrastructure. So by synergying with us, we are helping the cities as well to allocate or to direct or to adding passengers orderly and also efficiently by giving them choices on where to go and how to go there. Third is about the safety, accessibility, and transparency. We always strive to map the reality of the stations, routes, and transportations units all over the world to give our citizens the information they have when they need it. And the last one, maybe is more prevalent nowadays, is environmental stewardship. So we give the citizens the tools to move away from vehicle to find alternative transportations that is more environmental friendly. Next slide. From Google Maps perspective, on our global coverage, we have covered 99% of the world's countries and including their territories. It translates to 64 million kilometers of roads mapped by 2017, and definitely it's more right now. And also we do have 150 million places, including all the small, medium businesses across the world. And every month we are seeing new 700,000 places added across the world. In Google Maps, not only that, we also supported 74 languages around the world, and it means that you can use Google Maps wherever they are using the language that they are comfortable with. Next. After talking about the global coverage, talking about transportations, multimodal and urban mobility cannot be separated in the topic. Next, so I want to take a little step back to share about Indonesia. How is it right now? In Indonesia, we are seeing almost 200 million population, or 73% of population in Indonesia are connected to internet. Not surprisingly, they are concentrated in Java, and most of them is actually accessing internet through their smartphone. So we can assume 2 things. One is they have huge chances to be exposed to Google products, including Google Maps. And the second assumption is most people do have to get out from their house to go to their job places or to be productive every day. So most of them are most likely are using transit in their daily life. Next. So talking about transit, we also have to talk about the multimodal. So what is multimodal? Multimodal is actually trips that combines more than 2 or more modes and usually involve transit to complete a journey. So transit is very often the dominant leg in these journeys. We are seeing about 95% of multimodal trips actually including transit as their main leg. So we are seeing this multimodal is very important for us to help our users. So from next, in the multimodal world, we are seeing all the transit journeys that we see from our users. More advanced countries like cities like New York and Tokyo, they are more into using 1 or 2 modes every day to complete the journey. But in cities like Delhi and Jakarta, most of us are using more than 2 multimodals or 2 modes to complete a journey. That might include buses, train, MRT, LRT in combination on that. Next. So if we can go to the next slide. So getting the multimodal, the information that all the user needs, it requires to map all the transportation system. when we go to a new city or new country, our app will look like on the left side, where we cannot provide informations to help users, but in more advanced cities that is working with us very closely, from their government to the companies, private companies, we are able to help our users without any costs better. If you see on the right side, it is an example of how the navigation works on Google Maps in Sydney. It has a very granular navigation information from where people have to alight, which train they need to go, which exits, until if they want to combine the navigation with ride hailing, they are able to do so in one place, in Google Maps, in one card. Next slide. So in short, we need, as a Google Map, we need to reflect the reality of transportation in each cities, just because we are very aware that user needs to make informed decision every single day, because there are changes. It's very constant, especially in transportations. And I will explain more with illustration in the later slides. If we go to the next slide, this is a more practical example. With limited information, if we are only able to provide our users limited information, for example, using one mode or one bus, the travel time may be not very efficient. In this case, I might say that maybe it's going to take more than 1 hour. But if we go to the next slide, if we are able to have a very good quality of data and then combine all the multi-modes, actually the journey doesn't take more than 1 hour, but it's only 40 minutes. So it's more efficient if we are able to use our technology to provide with the best options for their users. So next, I want to share a little bit more on how is it Google Maps in Indonesia so far. So a little bit background, Google Maps is not only serving users on where to go, but also the discovery to find places that they, the right places that they need to go. And also we have some features that allows people to make it easy on their daily tasks, especially like booking tables in restaurants, and also like to find the phone number of a specific places. So to begin with, it's very natural for me to share that Google Maps in Indonesia, we really care about the public transportation's information. Feature of public transit and multimodal is already been launched for a few years right now. So it integrates between walking, all the public transit, for example, LRT, MRT buses, informal buses, and also biking, walking, and other modes as well right now. So user can sort it from this settings, which navigation they want to see first. Is it because they want to find the cheapest one, or the most convenient one with less walking, or they want to check out which navigation options which is the fastest for them to go. The second one, we cannot deny that Jakarta people usually, or the big cities in Indonesia, using private cars is still prevalent. So we already launched Ganjil Genap, or even car plate restriction, on Google Maps a few years ago. And this is something that we keep updating every time for optimizing people's navigation every day. The third one, also, we are giving options for people to book the ride sharing right from the Google Maps apps without any additional costs. So it gives a better picture for people to plan their journey, what kind of modes they are they need to go with, or they prefer to go. On the next slide, it's more on the information that we really care every day. Our team with hundreds of people are always checking and crunching data just to make sure all the road closure in Indonesia are accurate. Also, we are updating the road construction that might affect the travel time or ETA. And then the last one is we launched this feature last year to show the station crowdness in real time. This is very useful for users who may want to plan their journey, whether they want to go to a station or skip the station because it is, whether it is too packed or not. And this hopefully can help people to do social distancing during this COVID-19 pandemic era. On the next slide, after all of, not only all of that, we also work with the central government very closely to update all the Mudik Ramadan routes, from the car navigation routes, road closures, route redirections, until all the public transit data like ferries for Mudik, inter-island Mudik. And also we are make sure all the temporary places are there as well, including all the posko Mudik along the Mudik routes. So after that, from all the features for Google Maps, how do we help in the next slide? So to give a better illustration in the next slide again, let me introduce you to Andre here. So Andre has a very long journey from home to work every day, and condition is usually changed. This is resulted by the city is repairing their multiple transit station. Sometimes they close some stations as well temporarily. And in addition to that, it's in rainy season and it really impacts the certain routes and resulting in delays in closing. So next, just imagine.
A few more minutes.
Yeah. Just imagine if Andre has a lot of information to plan the data. He can check which way to skip or which route to skip. And the next one. Next slide. I give you another example of Jennifer. Yeah, you can keep in the slide. Jennifer is actually a doctor working in a hospital, always go at home, finish her shift at late at night. She doesn't like to wait in the bus stop alone. So with Google Maps real-time data, she will be able to check whether she wants to take this bus or whether she needs to get out from the building and start walking to the bus stop now. Next one, I'm going to run through very quickly, maybe a little bit over time. I'm sorry about that. Next slide. Next slide, please. Sorry. So not only all like that, Google Maps also provide all the accessibility navigation information that would include all the elevator and big enough doors for people who wear wheelchair or mothers or fathers who use the baby pram to go. So it's convenient for them. On the next slide, I'm going to run through this very quickly. So all the features, we cannot do it alone. So how we keeping the information fresh and accurate? The first one is our biggest partner, our most important partners is our users themselves. Our users can contribute the local insight from Google Maps by adding feedback, editing information, but also they can send suggestions as well. In this one, I would like to highlight one of our local guides, the community of maps editing called Ibu Deliana. Ibu Deliana is very active in the movement in Tangerang to encourage people to add all the accessibility information updated on maps. Next slide. So Ibu Deliana is actually part of our community of local guides, community of Google Maps that loves to edit and then contribute to others. While they're editing, contributing, they are gaining points as well, and they got rewarded in each levels. On the next one, this is one of the most important slide actually in this topic. We also care and then very closely working hand in hand with local authorities around the world to help the citizens. These are some of the example of news articles about how we work with the government together to provide how we can serve our citizens under the same understanding that our client or our priority is one, the people itself. On the next slide, this is the last slide. How we help the users, or how we work together closely with users. This is one of the example of the newest one that we work with the Transport of New South Wales in Sydney, where we work together, sit down, and then brainstorm on how we can help users by leveraging our technology, our expertise, and the government as well. And last year we launched deliver a global first with Sydney to feature a show of occupancy of the next buses. So it helps people to check whether they want to take the next buses or not. So in short, just to close this, we are in Google Maps, we are very care about our users. We love to work together with the government because we understand that we need to bangkit and maju sama-sama just to have a better place. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mbak Isabella. Mbak Isabella, there is a fact that Indonesia is still developing its transportation system to be integrated to one and each other. Dari angkot sampai MRT, Mbak. Dari rural area to urban area. Maybe this will be my question later on, but how Google deal with this issue, or maybe is there any obstacle, especially for those with disabilities, how Google provide those with disabilities. Thank you very much. Later on, Mbak. Thank you.
Siap, terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Okay, moving along, we will have Mr. Edward Killian, CMO of Link Aja, to explain the digital payment and its integration within the system. Mas Kiki, kami persilakan Mas Kiki.
Yes, okay, thank you, Wahyu. So I'll share my screen. All right. Okay, so in the next 15 minutes, I will probably share about Link Aja and what we have done in regards on integrating public transport digital payments, what we see from there, and what will be our considerations to make sure that the transformations on the digitalization is something that can be sustained over time. So some of you might probably aware of Link Aja, but some may not. So Link Aja is a form of a synergy of electronic server-based money from the SOEs, state of enterprises. So Link Aja is actually it's a merge of several e-money server-based before, which is T-Bank from BRI, Mandiri eCash, Unico from BNI, Telkomsel T-Cash. They are all merged into one, which is the Link Aja electronic money as we see today. So the mandate they've given to us is basically to help on accelerating Indonesia economic growth by actually driving the financial and economic inclusions. To deliver this purpose, we're actually building ourselves to become the leading and trusted national fintech platform. And in order to achieve that, we're actually also developing the ecosystem on both sides, payments and financial services, that focus mainly to address the Indonesian mass aspirant as also the SME segments. As of today, we are actually owned by 10 SOEs, which is Telkomsel, Bank Mandiri, Bank BRI, BNI, Pertamina Jasa Marga, Kereta Api, Taspen Jiwasraya Dada Reksa, and one technology company, which is Grab. So based on that purpose and mandates, we actually focusing ourselves on the essential payments for the middle class and SMEs. So this is actually what set us different from the rest of our players in the industries. So in terms of customer segments and merchant, we are addressing the mass market, the typical middle class, and also the ultra micro, which is the SMEs. And we are actually moving ourselves with regards not only on the tier city, but also on the tier 2, tier 3. And also we are delivering a lot of digitalizations related to the SOEs and also the government use cases. And we are very much focused on the essentials of productive transactions types. So this actually will going to explain to you that's why Link Aja is not easily found in the, for example, the lifestyle malls and so on and so forth, because the mandate is not really to addressing the lifestyle business, but the mandate is basically on the financial inclusion, which is addressing the typical middle class and the SME sectors. So within 1.5 years since we actually launched in 2019, mid-2019, we have built the comprehensive essential payment ecosystem. This actually starting from the telecommunications, the merchants, nationals, and also local merchants, e-commerce, utility bills payment, and what we're going to discuss deeper, which is the transportations. And then also the financial services, we built in also the cash in and cash out points, working together with the local governments on the tourisms, as well as the fuel payments and so on and so forth. And started last year, April 2020, we also make this payment ecosystem, the comprehensive one, accessible through what we form as the Sharia services of Link Aja. And in addition towards that, we also built the Sharia ecosystem, which related to the Islamic Education Center, and then the halal market, and then the Kurban, and so on and so forth. So in regards to the digitalizations in this pandemic era, we cannot deny that the pandemic is actually driving and accelerating the contactless payment usage. This is actually taken from the McKinsey research. We can see that actually on the this part, on contactless payment, we can see there is a significant increment on the usage, 23%, while actually the other form, for example, debit credit card, is actually declining during the pandemic time. And this is happening not only on the essentials payments, like, for example, the groceries and so on and so forth, but we also see this actually happening on the multiple payment transactions, because we understand that people still need to become productive. They still need to do their daily activities, but they also would like to follow the health protocols to make sure that they can actually protect themselves from the pandemics. So in regards to this, we're also doing a lot of digitalizations in terms of transportations. So just to explain a little bit about what we have done in digitalizations in the multimodal transportations, I would probably try to take a minute of your time to actually share this video.
Di masa ini, pilih transportasi nggak cukup yang nyaman, tapi juga harus aman. Biar nggak kena macet, ya ojolan. Grab atau Gojek bisa, tapi yang nggak bisa naik berdua. Naik Bluebird untuk berduaan, bisa aja. Tapi siap-siap nggak bisa selap-selip. Naik kereta biar hemat dan cepat, bisa aja. Tapi yang nggak bisa berhenti semaunya. Kalau bawa mobil sendiri sih bisa, tapi harus isi BBM sendiri.
Untuk semua transportasi, bayarnya cukup pakai link aja. Lebih aman tanpa sentuhan. Link aja, lengkapnya untuk semua.
Yeah. So based on the video, you probably already seen that we already accepted in the multimodal transportation payment from the KAI Access, Railing, Commuter, LRT Jakarta, MRT, Transjakarta, even with also the on-demand one, which is like Gojek, Grab, and Bluebird. And also on top of this, there are also some of the local transportations that we already accepted, for example, like the Trans Semarang, Trans Batam, Trans Jogja. So we are using two connection types to actually integrating all these multimodal payments. One is actually the on-site, which is what you've seen in the examples of commuter payments, and then the LRT payments and the railing, which actually directly from the Link Aja applications, you can open the ticket code and then you scan it on the gates, and it open when the fund is sufficient, and you can directly enter and also scan on the or tap on the gate outs. So that is actually the first integrations payments that we do on sites. The second integrations that we are also doing, this is also related with the MRT Jakarta, Transjakarta, and all the rest of the on-demand transport. We're also doing the app integrations, where Link Aja will become the source of fund on any transactions within the applications of our partners. And all of this is actually accessible for both the regular Link Aja services and also the Sharia service of Link Aja. So with regards to digitalizations, the main challenge is basically about transforming the customer behavior. So coming from the probably tap a card or probably coming from the cash becoming digital, it needs a lot of effort to actually change the behavior. But what the notes that I would like to put in here is that we also need to make sure that when we see digitalization in transportation, we should not see it as a closed loop or an isolated ecosystem. Because what we see based on our user profile, 55% of all the users that are using the public transport digital payments, they are also using other services than transport, whether it's actually the merchant payments, electricity bills, or probably the telco purchases. 55% is actually transacting on these services. And then also more than 35% of the public transport users on digital payments, they are users of on-demand transport, whether it's a Gojek, Grab, or Bluebird. So when we would like to actually digitalizing the public transport payment, we should not only look at the public transport, but also the adjacent ecosystem that is related to public transport. This is actually to ensure that when people migrating or changing their behavior from the cash to cashless, they are also become very convenient and they find a lot more use cases that actually the behavior shift can be sustainable. So in addition towards that, is actually the ecosystem that is supporting the forming behavior also will play a critical role on the adoptions. We also see that actually the digital payments users on the public transport, 70% of them is actually topping up their balances is actually through the bank channels, and it's a multi-bank channels coming from like for BNI, Mandiri, BRI, or coming from ATM Bersama, ATM Blinks, Bank BTN, BCA, and other private banks. They are actually topping up from there, which we need to make sure that the convenience of topping up the electronic money need to be in place. And also 20%, not to forget that they're also topping up from the modern retails, being Circle K, Indomart, Alfamart, Family Mart, which actually we also need to address the ecosystem of the supporting top-up channels to make sure that the adoptions or the entry barrier to transform to digital payments is addressed and they can conveniently access and transforming themselves from cash to cashless. And then 10% is actually, it's from users of Link Aja. The P2P transfer between one user to another is also another form of how they actually topping up their balance to use on transport digital payments. Okay, last, we also see some opportunities and challenges on integrating public transport digital payments. The opportunities, I think, is quite straightforward that the accelerations of digital service adoption is happening today. A lot of people, it's now being pushed in such a way to adopt on digital services, whether it's from meetings, payments, and everything else. So it's the right timing for us to actually to transform or change the behavior from cash to cashless and digitalizing a lot of the services. And then the technology advancement is also in place today. Probably 3-5 years back then, we don't talk about AI, machine learning, easy integration, and so on and so forth, but now it's actually in place. But it's also come with challenges. When we also doing the integrations of the public transports, the infrastructure it is sometimes is actually a bit lacking also. It can be as simple as the internet coverage for the users or probably the internet connection of the infrastructure itself need to be in place to make sure that it's actually delivering a good experience for the customers. And also the second one is also talking about the education of customer, migrating from the cash to cashless. We don't deny that actually also there are some part of customers that they are probably have a technological gap that we need to help to facilitate. But the outcome of this is actually what we seen, for example, in the KCI payment, the commuter line payment with Link Aja, it actually will help a lot. So one of the key that we found out is that when you pay using the tap card and when you pay using the digital payment, what we provided, which is the scan QR, the scan QR is actually faster than the connections that when you are using the tap card. So even probably the seconds might be quite micro. So the tap card might actually take 1 second, and actually the QR payment can be less than 0.8 seconds. But when you talk about the 1 billion passengers that is actually coming in and out daily on commuter lines, 0.2 seconds is actually playing a significant role. So when we're able to transform this and we prepare ourselves both on the infrastructure, the consumers, together with all the industry-related players, the digitalizations of the transportation payment will help a lot to accelerate in terms of user experience, the efficiency and the productivity of the markets, of the peoples, and also the industry. So probably that's what I can share for this afternoon. Hopefully this actually helps to inform all of the audience. Thank you. Thank you, Wahyu.
Thank you much, Mas Kiki. Despite we still have some challenges, Mas, on education, tapi benar gitu. That is true that what Mas Kiki said, that the pandemic has pushes us to be cashless gitu ya, Mas ya. Jadi
yes,
crucial time for Link Aja to exist as a solution, I think the integration through digitalization. Thank you very much once again, Mas Kiki.
Thank you.
The next presenter will be Mr. Muhammad Kamaluddin as the President Director of PT Jaklingko Indonesia. Pak Kamal will be explaining the digitalization of the payment system for public transportation in Jakarta. Pak Kamal.
Thank you. Good morning. Selamat pagi, salam sehat, Pak Wahyu, distinguished guests, Pak William, and all the panelists. It is a pleasure for me to represent Jaklingko Indonesia, the company that was recently established in Jakarta to integrate payment and fare for intermodal public transport in Jakarta. And for my presentation, I will explain the best practice in digital ecosystem in payment integration, and what the world is calling now the mobility as a service, or MaaS, as the bigger picture of this digital ecosystem. So the next slide, I just want to show, the future is bright, really, on the transport digital ecosystem. Just to give the flashback from the presentation from His Excellency, the Minister Menristek, and also from the head of BPPT. There's a lot of opportunity for innovation in digital ecosystem for transport, and ITS will be the forefront of this innovation to provide the standard and also to provide recommendation for future innovation. And in my context, I will explain the part related to the transport, on the public transport, on the mobility as a service, and on the payment. So to show the definition of digital ecosystem, just to show the context of where we are. I use the reference from Gartner on digital ecosystem. Basically, digital ecosystem involve a lot of parties. There's a lot of operators. There's also people, stakeholders, and as Minister mentioned this morning, it's involve IoT, Internet of Things, AI, intelligence, and also cloud computing. As Hamam mentioned, there's a lot of components that has to work together here. And what is really important here is the standardized digital platforms to make sure that these all components can work together, and we can have the mutually beneficial purpose. And this is where Jaklingko is coming into the context. And we want to be part of the platform, and we want to work together with all operators, with all the digital companies like Linkaja, Google, many others, to work on the digital ecosystem for transport in Jakarta. And I will show some best practices to show why Jaklingko is established in the way that we are developing today. So as Isabella presented previously, in many users, we start from the first mile, continue with the public transport, and finish with the last mile. And this involves a lot of modes of transport. It involves a lot of navigation, and there is a physical aspect of it, and there's a digital aspect of it. The context that where we are today, we have to use a lot of apps. We have to use a lot of platforms. For using first mile, we have to plan on order the first transport. We continue with the second mode of transport. That continues until the end. And on top of that, there is also a map application that you have to open as another layer. And as you can imagine, this is not efficient, not effective from the user point of view, and also not efficient from the operator point of view. As Minister mentioned this morning, imagine if we have one centralized big data for all the transport in the city. It will help a lot for the operators to make it more efficient, and also it will help the government to do more analysis in the future. Minister mentioned earlier about the origin destination survey, origin destination analysis. Those kind of analytics can be made easier by having one single platform that Jaklingko Indonesia is going to develop. And we also take a look at different modes, and this involves so many different modes. And if you can go to the next slide, we think about all the public transport, private transport. So in the future, the ideal app, this is best practice from UITB, by the way, the Railway Association globally. The ideal app must be able to plan, to order, to do payment, as well as to track the public transport and give the comparison. So For example, if you want to have the mix of transport that will help you reach the destination faster, if you want to find a mix of destination that can make you more comfortable, or you can also compare the cost of using your own private cars. And by doing that, we hope that we will give the right information to the public on making decisions on whether they use public transport. And this will also push the modal share of public transport in the future, because people will later realize that actually using public transport is easier. It's also more affordable and also more sustainable for the environment. If we take a look at the key expectations from all parties here, starting with the expectation from the customer, we want to make sure that they can trust the platform, that the information is accurate. It's also simple, it's easy to use. It also provide the open access to all mode of transport. And also there is a flexibility and personalization. In the future, for example, if you have a regular commute from home to office, you don't have to choose the address of your home and your office anymore. It will be easier for people just to be recommended. Every 7 o'clock in the morning, for example, they can just click one button and the app will order the transport, and the payment will also come from the same app. And the expectation from transport operator also here to gain more customer relationship. This will be easier by having the transparent data across the transport operator. There will be also a fair share of revenue. So in the ideal context, which Jaklingko is going to implement in the future, we will have the integrated fare or integrated tariff, whereby people will get some discount by combining several public transport, and they will pay less. And it is possible because we will also be supported by the regulation from the local government as well as from the central government. And also there will be set accounts from each operator to be able to be analyze their own passenger, and also the liability for the whole journey to make sure that people reach the destination on time by mixing different types of transport. And in the future, I mean, as a general public, people will expect more utilization of public transport, and also the impact to the economy. So what the mass look like? What digital ecosystem for transport look like? I mean, this is just an illustration of the best practice from the UITP, in which the current situation, as Pak Kiki mentioned, people are mixing between mobile payment, card payment, and also some cash still used for taxi, for example. In the future, I mean, this has to be simplified. So people can probably go to the cashless, only using mobile app and cards. And in the future, it will be more ideal if the card and mobile payment can also be consolidated in what we call the account-based ticketing. And by doing that, people will be more comfortable in doing planning, ordering, paying for the different type of public transport, from train, buses, taxis, ride-hailings. Even we plan to accommodate also bike sharing and other modes of transport. And while we are designing this, of course, we look at the level of maturity of different mass around the world. There are still some cities that have no integration, still have separate services, separate apps for each type of public transport. The next layer is the integration of information. At least there is a multimodal travel planner. At least it helps people to get the information. The next step is the integration of booking and payment, and the higher level integration of the service offer that include the integrated fare. For example, if we have like a mix of 3 or 4 public transport that we use. For example, commuter line, and then you continue with MRT Jakarta, and then you end the transport with Transjakarta at the end. You will get cheaper fare if we have bundling fare in the future. And this is what we are aiming to do. And in the future, of course, the subsidy also will be adjusted to make sure that this can be operated by each public transport operator effectively. And then the formation of the Jaklingko also look at the different models that we go around the world. There is model 1 in which the mass operator is like a commercial integrator. So commercial integrator is like marketplace. You know, it's like a purely beauty business to business relationship between our transport operators and payment operators and users. So it's really an open. I mean, it's like a marketplace where people can buy different public transport services. The second model is an open platform. This is set up as a subsidiary, for example, of a public entity with regulation supported by the public authority. And it serves as a public infrastructure. Pak Kiki rightfully mentioned that we need a centralized infrastructure operator in which that the different operator can provide the automatic fare collection system integrated effectively, and we can process payment faster for both card payment as well as mobile payment. And then all mobility services have to open up their API. So for example, if there is a new operator, or if there is ride-hailing operators, if there is a taxi operator, it will be mandated to also open up their API to join this platform. And they will be
2 more minutes.
Yeah, okay. So go on to the next slide. So these are some examples from around the world, and we are using the example from Windmobile on the platform. And this Windmobile is implemented in Vienna. This is also an open backup system, and they involve bus, tram, metro, parking, taxi, bike sharing, car sharing, and so forth. And they are also a joint venture. And according to the ITP, this is an effective model, offering a customer-oriented service, very innovative, and also it's unpartial service that provide same level of service to all operators. So we go to Jakarta now. In Jakarta, we have established the company, our company, Jaklingko Indonesia. And this company is, you know, Jaklingko is based on the terminology announced by Jakarta government. You see this picture of the network of farm fields, and this is a beautiful illustration of how Jaklingko will provide both physical transport as well as the integration in terms of data. And Jaklingko Indonesia is playing the role in integration of data and integration of payment. Next slide. On the formation, we are similar to what the example from Vienna. We are a joint venture of 3 different transport operators, and also MITJ is another joint venture of MRT Jakarta and Kereta Api Indonesia, in which we will be able to have the mandate to integrate data and payment for 5 different modes of transport. So we will include MRT Jakarta, we will include Transjakarta, LRT Jakarta, KCI, commuter line, and also railing. And we already have the mandate based on the Governor Regulation number 63, 2020, on the assignment to the BUMD to integrate payment across the mode of transport. So in the illustration, the next slide, what we are going to do is we are going to integrate both the mobile app payments and also the information for the public transports, and also the payment by cards and so forth. We will be the backbone for all this function for the different modes of transport in Jakarta, and it will be extended in the future to include ojek, online, ride-hailings, taxis, and so forth. And on the tariff side, on the fare side, this helps to answer the question also from the audience, that we will integrate the fare for each transport operator in Jakarta. We will have a new governor regulation to set up a new fare that will allow people to pay less if they combine several modes of transport. And it is made possible because we will have us as the platform for the integration of data and payment in Jakarta. And we will deliver this in 3 different phases. The first phase in this year, next slide, we will introduce what we call the central clearinghouse system, and people will be able to use a simple app that we will release, and also the card, the smart card, to enjoy this integrated fare that will be released later this year, end of this year. And also in phase 2 is what we call the mobilitas service. Will be launched in March next year, in which we will extend the integration to other modes of transport like ojek online, the ride-hailings, taxis, and so forth. And in the future, we will also introduce what we call account-based ticketing. Account-based ticketing, this will be helpful to give the right price to the right passenger. So we will give the profile, and we will have the profile of students, the elderly, the disabled, and also low-income public. They will have a special price, and they will get the special price by registering their profile in the app. And then last but not least, I think the last slide is about the opportunity for partnerships for the audience. If there is any public or private transport operators, other public transport operators who would like to join us in this platform, we will have an open platform, and we can have an open communication in the future. Also, we look for digital advertising agency that can help us support enrich the function in the app. Also, we are more than open to work together with retail and culinary merchants to work together in the app, to use this app, especially those who are located near public transport areas, and also tourism destination operators, and last but not least, the news, social media, entertainment channels that can enrich the function inside our app. So that's all the presentation for me. If I may close this presentation by a video about Jaklingko Indonesia. Thank you very much. I give it back to Pak. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pak Kamal.
Yeah, thank you.
Baik. Terima kasih, Pak Kamal. Right, ladies and gentlemen, let's start the discussion. We have 3 questions here to be answered by the speakers. I'll read one by one. The first one will be for Miss Isabella, Mbak Isabella. Ini pertanyaannya in bahasa, Mbak, so you may answer the question in bahasa as well. Yang kita ketahui di era pandemi sekarang ini penggunaan sepeda sedang meningkat, Mbak Isabella. Apakah fitur di Google Maps juga sudah tersedia rute untuk tempat tertentu dengan menggunakan sepeda, Mbak? Silakan.
Terima kasih untuk pertanyaannya. Untuk Google Maps sendiri, fitur untuk biking sebenarnya sudah di-launch 10 tahun yang lalu. Cuman untuk spesifik jalur sepeda, sudah di-launch dari tahun lalu, dan kami memang akan planningnya roll out secara globally itu dalam 1-2 tahun mendatang. Jadi Indonesia itu sudah on track, sudah di dalam radar. Mudah-mudahan kita bisa lihat dan pakai untuk navigasi sepedanya anytime soon ya, seperti itu.
Oke. Bisa diaplikasikan during the pandemic, Mbak, or maybe after?
Mungkin timeline-nya kita masih nggak bisa pastiin karena kita baru launch untuk yang negara-negara dengan populasi sepedanya jauh lebih banyak dulu.
Gitu ya.
Dan rollingnya Indonesia kebetulan kan baru populernya di beberapa kota saja. Jadi prioritasnya kita tetap masukkan, tetapi juga untuk timeline-nya belum bisa kita pastikan kapan. Tapi yang pasti target kita dalam 2 tahun kita selesaikan global rollout ya.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mbak Isabella. The next one for Mas Kiki. Mas Kiki, ini juga in bahasa, you may answer the question in bahasa as well. Mas Kiki, proyeksi apa yang akan dilakukan Link aja untuk kedepannya di bidang transportasi? Silakan, Mas.
Oke. Untuk proyeksi di bidang transportasi banyak hal seperti yang tadi saya sempat jelaskan, sudah cukup banyak yang kita lakukan dari darat, laut, udara ya. Dari darat yang tadi saya sudah sampaikan di Jakarta maupun di luar Jakarta, integrasi dengan berbagai macam local transport. Kalau laut kita juga sudah ada integrasi dengan ASDP untuk penyeberangan di Verisi. Juga di udara kita juga sudah ada untuk yang Garuda dan Citylink. Memang ke depan berbagai macam integrasi dan pengembangan yang tadi Pak Kamal juga sampaikan, itu adalah banyak pengembangan maju yang lebih yang nanti akan segera kita bisa lihat. Sudah pasti kita akan mencoba mencari format kolaborasi, bagaimana nanti kita bisa mengintegrasikan apa yang kita udah miliki dari sisi payment ecosystem di transportasi yang sudah ada dengan berbagai macam hal yang lain. Salah satunya tadi yang disampaikan dengan Pak Kamal di Jaklingko. Nah, itu yang mungkin saya bisa sampaikan untuk saat ini, Pak Wahyu.
Baik, Mas Kiki, terima kasih. Mudah-mudahan ini terjawab dari pertanyaan kedua tadi ya. Sekarang ketiga, ini sebenarnya untuk Pak Kamal ini sudah dijawab tadi secara komprehensif ya Pak Kamal ya. Pertanyaannya dalam penggunaan aplikasi pembayaran digital, masyarakat menginginkan efektivitas dan juga kemudahan, Pak. Bagaimana ke depannya Jaklingko akan membuat fitur yang mendukung pembayaran digital dari satu titik ke titik yang lain dengan alat transportasi yang beda, Pak? Mungkin bisa dielaborasi lagi lebih detail lagi. Silakan, Pak.
Ya, baik. Terima kasih. Jadi nanti di aplikasi yang akan kami luncurkan, kami akan memberikan fitur kepada pengguna untuk memilih titik keberangkatan dan titik tujuan. Dan dari 2 titik ini akan diberikan rekomendasi moda-moda transport yang tersedia, dan akan dimunculkan juga informasi mengenai biayanya dan juga estimasi kedatangan atau tibanya di tempat tujuan. Dan dari pilihan-pilihan itu nanti pengguna akan bisa memilih moda atau mix atau campuran public transport mana yang akan digunakan. Dan setelah dipilih akan langsung muncul satu QR code gitu. Jadi nanti QR code ini bisa digunakan untuk melakukan pembayaran untuk semua modanya. Baik dari mulai berangkat dari rumah misalkan menggunakan ojek dulu, kemudian sampai kepada kereta komuter misalkan KAI komuter lain, kemudian dilanjutkan lagi dengan Transjakarta di tujuannya atau dilanjutkan dengan MRT di tujuannya. Semuanya hanya menggunakan satu app. Dan semua sistem ini bisa bisa di-track juga oleh pengguna. Jadi nanti kalau apabila ada perubahan jadwal atau ada misalkan perubahan servis atau ada kasus-kasus tertentu akan diberikan juga informasinya melalui aplikasi ini. Jadi akan sangat mudah ke depannya untuk melakukan perjalanan melalui mobile app kami. Dan juga kartu smart card yang sekarang sudah beredar itu juga masih bisa digunakan. Bahkan nanti ke depannya di tahun 2022 itu akan kami introduce yang namanya account-based ticketing, di mana nanti akan mempermudah sinkronisasi antara saldo kartu dengan saldo yang ada di mobile begitu. Seringkali misalkan sekarang yang terjadi kita punya kartu, terus kemudian kartunya ternyata nggak bisa digunakan di public transport A, harus ganti kartu lain, kemudian nanti di public transport lain harus pakai kartu yang lain lagi, begitu. Ujung-ujungnya kartunya hilang, begitu ya. Nanti mungkin agak repot gitu memproses saldonya yang hilang. Ini akan lebih mudah nanti ke depannya karena semuanya akan tersentralisasi. Kami akan menjadi platformnya. Dan dengan sistem yang terintegrasi ini akan sangat mempermudah bagi semua pengguna dan harapannya bisa meningkatkan penggunaan public transport di Jakarta dan mengurangi kemacetan. Tadi yang menjadi target yang diberikan oleh Pak Menristek bahwa tujuan utamanya adalah mengurangi kemacetan di kota-kota besar di Indonesia. Terima kasih.
Mas Kamal, saya ada tambahan sebenarnya. Jadi, apakah mungkin nanti akan ada single payment semacam card gitu, seperti di Hong Kong, di London ada Oyster Card. Jadi yang mengintegrasikan seluruh platform yang ada, Mas, as a single payment card, or maybe digital by apps.
Ya, jadi untuk kartu yang akan bisa digunakan untuk integrasi nanti ada 2. Sekarang sudah ada license Bank Indonesia yang dimiliki oleh baik MRT Jakarta dan KCI, kereta komuter lain, dan kartu ini akan dibuat interoperable nanti di akhir tahun ini. Jadi akan bisa ditukar-tukar gitu ya, karena semuanya sebenarnya sudah saling terhubung. Walaupun 2, tapi essentially sebetulnya mirip sebagai satu platform. Kemudian yang kedua dari app, tentunya nanti akan terbuka ya, tapi akan ada satu app yang akan mempermudah, jadi pengguna hanya cukup menggunakan satu app ini untuk mendapatkan QR code-nya. Namun saldonya nanti akan terbuka, saldonya bisa mengambil saldo yang misalkan dari link aja atau dari issuer uang elektronik lainnya, untuk bisa digunakan sebagai sumber dana untuk menggunakan public transport. Kira-kira seperti itu.
Right. Okay. Baik. Terima kasih, Pak Kamal. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we can wrap up our today's event. So, myself, I'm very optimistic that we can bring a better solution for our digital transportation ahead through innovation in making our transportation far better than we have already now in the future, especially in Jakarta or maybe in also other big cities, to the remote areas ya, Pak William ya, MRT nanti sampai remote area ya Pak ya. Jadi on all province in Indonesia, nggak hanya di Jakarta. So let us pray together for the better Indonesia. So we will have the autonomous vehicles in our transport system by the 2040 ya tadi ya, sesuai dengan apa yang disampaikan oleh Pak Menteri Pak Bambang Brojonegoro. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, all guests and participants, all the speakers, Pak Willy, Pak Hamam, Pak Kamal, Mbak Isabella, terima kasih Mbak Isabella, Mas Kiki, thank you once again, all the participants, and also thank you very much to the ITS Indonesia for holding this webinar. Thank you for attention.
Terima kasih. Thank you Mas Wahyu.
Webinar ya Pak, because it will be held once a month ya Pak ya. Okay, baik. Terima kasih. I'm Wahyu Wibowo signing off. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang. Sampai jumpa. Bye-bye.
Terima kasih Pak Willy. Salam Pak Kamal. Mbak Isabella. Salam.
Terima kasih
Pak.
Terima kasih semuanya.
Mas Kiki,
Mbak Bella.
Terima kasih Pak Willy. Terima kasih.
Kamal. Thank you semua.